To manage network programs, you'll first need to be logged in under the network. You'll also need to be a network administrator. Go to Administration and then Network Programs. Network programs are the programs that appear on the organization grid that give you the ability to assign them to new or existing agencies. These are programs that are general enough for you to create at the network level because other agencies in the future may want to track it at some point. So the most common would be a food bank visit or pantry visit. That would be recommended to be a network program. So a pantry or food bank visit, that would be recommended to be a network program or a general program like a meal or snack program that everyone would use in the same way. To edit a network program, we'll start with a generic program. So we'll try this breakfast program. You can edit the name of the program. The type is locked because it is linked to reporting. And then allow creating visits for. So for a generic program, you can decide if this should be on the services page of a client's profile, which would be client. Should it appear under programs as a bulk program? Or should it be available in both areas? Active, yes or no. So if you no longer want to track it, you can deactivate the program. Visit options. So there are little question mark options to give you a little blurb as to what each option represents. If tracking it for clients, then we have the visit reason options. So visit reason, do you want to track it for this specific program? Should it be a required field if you choose to track it? Do you want to track yes or no delivery options? Would you like to track the referral field? If yes, do you want it to be optional to answer that question? There's an option to bypass semi-restricted security. So this means that if you're a semi-restricted network, should this program be visible regardless of if the user is logged into the same agency? So should this program specifically be visible across all agencies? And there's also a visit frequency option. So visit by day, number of visits per day, week, month, or year, and this will be listed on the program button on the services page. You can also enforce visit frequency, which means the system will not allow you to make an exception for the visit frequency that has been set. There are then appointment options. This is something that the agency managers can see and schedule, but we have 3 options. The details about this can be found in the user manual, but tracking appointments by just date, you can say date and time, meaning they have to come at a certain date and time, as opposed to just on that day, or caseload. So would they like to set up the ability to set a certain amount of appointments per time frame? And then you can decide if you want to enforce the caseload or not. So should there be any exceptions to this? Appointment hours of operation or availability can be set here using the days list, the start time and end time, the date that this should be set up. So maybe there are hours that are different per season. Should there be an end date? If using the caseload option, you get to set up again number of minutes number of visits every number of minutes. So 1 visit every 15 minutes. And then there could be exceptions like closures. So if this is something that's set up on the weekdays, no end date here, but on Monday, on the 23rd, I'm closed. It will check the system for if there are any existing appointments for that day. If there are, it will not let you set this closure date. It will tell you that there are appointments scheduled. But if there aren't any hours of operation, sorry, if there are not any appointments, it will allow you to set that. Other options include signature tracking, and then tracking provisions. Should there be a requirement for provisions, whether it's a specific food, in this specific food area or item area, or maybe just a provision in general needs to be checked off. And if you'd like to track quantity, so this is the text box that appears beside the visit date, sometimes equating to pounds or food or hampers provided, and the text can be put in here. So if I put pounds, this means on the visit page, it will say pounds beside that text box. And you can decide if this should be a required field or not. And then here are the provisions that are listed. These provisions come from the network administration list area where there's a provisions list, and it would be shown here. And you can decide how that should be tracked. Should there be a count of items? Is it tracked in currency, weight, or should it just be a checkbox? And you can enable it just by clicking on the inactive button that switches to active here. So by making these changes, you'll have to agree to a disclaimer. And since this is a network program, it will also have an agency exceptions list by letting you know, although you set this up here at the network level, here are your other agencies that are tracking it, but have customized it a little bit differently to their agencies. So in this case, Agency 1 has decided to use it as a bulk program. So they are tracking child, adult, and senior in that case. And then there's a log of all the changes that have been made and who have made the changes. So that is one program setup configuration. Most of the other programs are the same way. So let's go to a pantry program. Very familiar options. Again, the name, visit options. We have the visit frequency here, delivery, visit reasons, appointments are always here, signature items, food and items provided. So the program configuration is similar. There are a couple programs that have additional options, like the commodity programs for CSFP and TFAP. This still has the standard visit and appointment options, but we also have operational and state-specific options. So operational meaning how should this program work across the board, across all of your agencies. So for any of your agencies who are using a CSFP program, these are the options that can be set. So would you like any of the automatic status changes to be enabled? Would you like enrollment restricted depending on a certain rule? So then we have state-specific options. So you have the ability to put in your state's CSFP income rules and guidelines. Now, although on this page there are several different states, and for you it might be one state, and for other food banks they might border to 2 or 3 states. So that's why they have different options of selecting from the drop-down list to select a state and enter their guidelines. We'll use Kentucky as an option here. So if you'd like to track CSFP agency caseload, instead of one number across the state, you can set it by specific agency. We have CSFP options. So all of these options that may have been familiar when you first set up your CSFP program in Link2Feed will all be listed here. So just click or hover over the little question mark that will clarify what this option means. This is where your recertification period, if they were to change, would be listed, what your caseload would be. If you were tracking any certification disclaimers, this is where it can all be configured. So I have the ability to format it any way I'd like, add any hyperlinks, add tables if that's required. And then we have income guidelines. So whenever that comes into effect to change, you can change them yourself right here, and that will be reflected in the system for this specific state. signature options as well, disclaimer options, and what the styles are. So obviously so if it's by state, you would, if any changes were to happen for the income guidelines, you would change them by state. If anything happened to the signature disclaimer, you can change them by state as well. For TFAP, it's similar to CSFP where we have operational and state-specific options. So again, across the board, if you'd like any rules to be set in place, in this case, it's eligibility. And then we have state-specific options. So again, you would select your state, any options. Reminder, you can review that little question mark at the end. And depending on what you click, there might be other options available for you to complete. The systems will make you complete a field if it's required before saving the page. I have my income guidelines already set here, and then signature options. So anytime that needs to be changed or updated, you can do that here. Once that's set up, let's say I have 2 TFAP programs, or I have a TFAP program, a TFAP mobile program, a TFAP market program. Any change I make to this TFAP state-specific rule here under state-specific options will be applied to all of my TFAP-related programs. The same goes for CSFP. So any CSFP changes I make, let's say I may have 2 different, or I want to track my CSFP programs differently, any changes made to one program in the state-specific or operational areas will be applied to all of your programs. However, for example, let's say one of your agencies wanted to try CSFP by appointment, then you can log in under that agency, add appointment options, and that will be specific to that agency. But the operational and state-specific options will stay the same. Maybe they want to add food and items provided. They want to track specific things for TFAP. That's fine. They can track it for their specific agency, but the operational and state-specific options will remain the same. If there's any question as to when or how changes have been made, this is particularly important for commodity programs where we have the program options change history. So you have a log as to when your guidelines have changed or your disclaimers have changed and who has changed them.